Hello everyone, I'm Autobotsonic, a Telltale Gamer, bringing you latest and everything Telltale games, Transformers, and more. For today's review, we're going to be looking at Transformers Cyberverse Season 1, Episode 2, Memory. Now, fortunately, the HD version of this episode came out literally just a couple hours after I uploaded my review of Transformers Cyberverse Episode 1. And for any of those you wondering, I just realized this now, that apparently all my analysis videos of Transformers Cyberverse have been taken down. I realize now that I got copyright claims on those videos due to the fact that I included footage from the clips in those videos. So from now on, unless you see clips involving that are released through trailers and all that, I'll be solely sticking to using screenshots only in these reviews. Maybe at the very most quick 5 or 10 second clips at a very small picture size, but I don't want to risk a copyright strike, guys. So anyway, this is technically acts as part 2 of the Transformers Cyberverse series premiere, and I gotta say, while part 1 certainly was good, part 2 is a lot better. I mean, not a lot happens in it, but it definitely it feels better. There wasn't really anything bad, but the only problem I have to say is not a lot happens in this episode. That's really the only con that happens with this episode. So yeah, it was a pretty good episode, other than the fact that really not too much important stuff happened because of the episode length being only 10 minutes instead of 22. But so yeah, we're gonna go ahead and see all the different highlights of this episode. So this episode starts off immediately following the events of the previous first episode, Fractured, in which it ended with Windblade attempting to repair Bumblebee's memories by connecting to him through her cortical psychic patch. But of course, her memories of Megatron, or Bumblebee's memories of Megatron, overwhelmed Windblade, and this caused her to create a huge shockwave that knocked both her and Bumblebee unconscious. It then cuts to Nova Storm and Thundercracker, who are investigating Bumblebee's seeker ship when they pick up on the little the power surge that Windblade causes, and it also kind of stuns them a bit at first before they realize where it's coming from and set out to find them. Once Windblade and Bumblebee wake up, Windblade tries to get Bumblebee to try it again, but he of course is completely distrusting of Windblade now because of the painful experience she put her through, and is almost ready to go ahead and walk away from Windblade before Thundercracker and Nova Storm catch up to them. So it's all at this point we get to see another part where Transformers Cyberverse shines, and that's in its fluidity with the character animation. So in this, once again, it's not really exciting fight per se, but we get a little battle between them when Nova Storm and Thundercracker arrive. Windblade transforms and shoots down Thundercracker so Bumblebee can fight him, while Windblade takes on Nova Storm. And it's a really funny fight here between Thundercracker and Bumblebee, in which while Windblade is battling Nova Storm, Bumblebee keeps trying to get his stinger to work again to try and fight Thundercracker, but it's not. And just the radio commentary Bumblebee does during this fight, honestly, this is probably the funniest I've ever seen heard Bumblebee's radio voice be. Where episode 1 was kind of a little bit cringy, it wasn't cringy at all this episode. I don't know what Hasbro did with this episode that made it so much better than the first one, but honestly I think it fits so much better in this than it did in the first episode. So honestly, I just really liked it. Anyway, eventually after Bumblebee realizes he can't get his stinger to work, Windblade decides to tell Bumblebee to run. So the two of them retreat under the cliffside where they first attempted the cortical psychic patch, and as we saw this in a clip that was released a couple weeks ago prior to episode 1 and 2's air date, in which Windblade shoots out her turbine engines and spins them at such a fast speed that they're able to cut right through the rock that they're all standing under. And so then she pulls Bumblebee out from it, and so Nova Storm and Thundercracker get crushed by all debris. At this point, Windblade and Bumblebee decide to run away again, and they decide to go and find Bumblebee's scout ship, which she assumes must be nearby, given that this is where Bumblebee is. So of course they find it. Windblade decides to come up with this really complicated plan to get in, where Bumblebee just goes ahead and strolls in, unaware if there could be any possible Decepticons in there, but of course there isn't. Windblade goes to check out the cockpit of the ship where she thinks there's a Decepticon, but it's actually just Bumblebee messing with the ship slides, and so she just leaves Bumblebee in there while she goes to set up the ship's navigating computer to read his memories. But once Windblade gets the computer all set up for Bumblebee, of course, Bumblebee's a little hesitant of going into it because he's still afraid of it after his experience with it in the last episode when Windblade tried to do it by connecting to her processor instead of the ship's. But Windblade does her best to try and reassure Bumblebee, so he eventually, reluctantly, decides to go ahead and do it. Once Bumblebee is unconscious, Windblade uses, telepathically connects to Bumblebee. Now, I think this is actually really cool, in which, at this point, Bumblebee is confused as to how, Windblade can go in Bumblebee's mind when she's not physically connected to him, and Windblade explains that this is one of her abilities as a city speaker, and that she can talk to, like, other, like, higher beings. So now this is a reference to, Windblade's, backstory, actually, in the IDW comics, in which she was the city speaker for Cybertron. What city speakers were in the IDW comics is that they had the ability to talk to the Titans, which are these giant transformers that can turn into, like, cities or colonies. So at this point, after Bumblebee realizes that he's talking with his own voice for the first time and not with his radio, Windblade decides to have Bumblebee practice accessing some of his memories. So to start, she has him look over a memory of his time on Earth. So she literally has him just rewind back to review the memory of him doing all his stunts right before meeting up with Windblade back in the beginning of the last episode. So once that's over and Bumblebee realizes he has control over his memories to the most part, she then tries to get Bumblebee to remember try to remember something about Cybertron. So of course, or not Cybertron, actually the Ark. So Bumblebee does it, and we get this nice little clip of Bumblebee back on Cybertron with Grimlock calling him over the radio to get ready to leave on the Ark. Now it's interesting to point out here that Bumblebee still has the same ult mode he has on Earth. So it seems as though, like, we're not going to be seeing much transforming, that every character technically has their Cybertronian ult mode and not like an Earth mode, but we'll have to see. So anyways, Bumblebee seems to arrives at the Ark after Optimus and everyone else is boarded. He's greeted by Windblade and Perceptor, who, like, Windblade says goodbye to him before he leaves. But it's also at this point again that Bumblebee doesn't talk at all in this. He only talks to a bunch of beeps and boops like he did his Transformers Prime version did. But it's interesting that they're mending this, like that Hasbro's doing this, like they have Bumblebee talking his radio voice on Earth like he did in the Bayverse movies, and now he's talking like through like all these whirs and beeps like he did in Transformers Prime until the series finale. And I think that's really interesting to see. Wondering how they're gonna explain how Bumblebee lost his voice. Like, now we know apparently Bumblebee fixed it at some point while they were on the Ark, because as we saw in the last episode, Windblade said that Ratchet fixed his voice box. So obviously something happened in between Bumblebee getting on the Ark, Bumblebee getting on the Ark, and then Bumblebee arriving. So he must have gotten his voice box fixed at some time in between those, and something just happened to it. So we'll have to wait and see what exactly happened that caused Bumblebee to lose his voice. But I'm looking forward to figure out if Hasbro ever does decide actually to go ahead and explain what it is. So after a little goodbye from Windblade, Bumblebee heads up onto the Ark to join Optimus and the rest of the crew. And after that point, Bumblebee realizes that, he tells Windblade what he saw, and that he saw the Ark, Optimus, and Windblade. He realizes that he and Windblade were friends before he lost his memories. So then Bumblebee realizes that he wants to work with Windblade to try and unlock the rest of his memories so they can find Optimus and the rest of the crew. But just before they, after that, Bumblebee's scout ship starts transmitting from Starscream, of all people, who seems to be calling out for Thundercracker and Novastorm, asking if they have anything on the Autobots. But of course, Bumblebee doesn't know that Starscream's a Decepticon, so thinking that he's another Autobot, runs straight to the computer to answer it, and which Starscream realizes that it's Bumblebee, and that's how the episode ends. And so that was my review of Transformers Cyberverse Season 1, Episode 2 Memory. If I had to rate this episode, I'd probably give it another 9 out of 10. Now, I know I said that this episode was better than the last episode, but I can't help but shake though that it is I did find one con with this episode, and that's the fact that it's kind of formulaic. It's basically the exact same premise as the last episode. It starts with Bumblebee and Windblade getting into some antics. That's the first third. The second third is them battling a Decepticon, and then the third slot is Bumblebee and Windblade accessing memory before a cliffhanger ending. So I am kind of disappointed in the fact that while it was a good episode, it did kind of feel like literally it had the exact same story beats as the last 2 episodes. Now, hopefully, I hope that's something that doesn't happen with the rest of these episodes, but so far that's my one main concern for this, because it's fine now, but if they keep doing this for the rest of we only got 16 more episodes of the series. If they keep doing this for the rest of the series, it's gonna get really old really fast. But anyway, that was my review of Transformers Cyberverse Season 1, Episode 2 Memory. I'll be back soon with Episode 3 Allspark. If you like this review, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys later.